And basically what I tend to do is I would uh, use Word or Excel so that it is typed in clearly and everyone can see it. If there is any issue, like if my voice breaks or if my voice sounds like a robot or whatever happens, I need some indication from you that something is not right. You can type in, you can put it in the chat box, you can raise your hand or whatever, but you need to do that. Okay? Are we clear on this basic ground rules? Okay. So I cannot emphasize enough that I need some response from you. When you understand, when I ask you, do you understand? I need some kind of a response because it is very difficult otherwise for me to know whether there is your understanding or not. You can just type yes or no in the chat box, or you can unmute and tell me, yes, you understand it, so that I can move forward. Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Yes,
so I'm going to start the class. I have to assume, does everyone understand the syllabus? The grading on the syllabus. I'm assuming that you've gone over it, you've gone over the weightage and so on and so forth, right? So at this time, this is my assumption that you have seen the syllabus, you understand the syllabus, you understand how the grading is taking place. If not, say something now, otherwise I will move on. Okay, so you understand the syllabus and you understand that today we will do a chapter on the cost volume profit analysis. Now, overall, what are you doing at this time in this class? There are three questions that you are answering. One, what is cost? So when you did the definitions of cost, fixed cost, variable costs, etc., that is, and how the cost is allocated, that's what you have done, right? Second, how do you measure cost? So you did the job order costing, you did the process order costing or activity-based costing. So those are the methods as to how to process the cost, how to compute the cost, sorry. Now the third part is, how do you manage cost? And that is the part that I'm going to cover. So today we will start with cost volume profit. Then we will make a budget. We will see if the budget is as per the target or not. We'll do the variance analysis. And then what we are going to do is we are going to use all this information for decision making purposes in the end. So this is in 1 minute a summary of what we are going to do. Okay. So what's going to happen is you will notice that I generally provide you a quick summary of the concept, and then we get into the applications, and I will do as much variety of problems as that I can that are feasible in 2 hours. And if you have got any particular problem, just let me know and I will take care of it. Okay. Okay, so now when you start a business, now right now you're seeing many businesses are being impacted, many businesses are going under. In US right now, many businesses have filed for bankruptcy, small businesses have gone under. Why do they go under? Very simple reason, they are not able to meet their costs, right? It's nothing, please understand, there is nothing magical about account costing. It's based upon pure common sense, and we have put labels and names on that common sense things. That's all we have done. So example, basically, when I ask you when do the business go under, the simple answer is when they don't make profit, right? When do they not make profit? They don't make profit when they don't meet their cost. they don't meet their fixed cost or their variable cost? Because the total cost is basically either variable cost or fixed cost, right? So at any point of time, if I use a term which you are not familiar with, again, ask the question. So once they don't meet the cost, they start to get into losses. And that's where basically they go under. So that basically means it makes it important for us to understand when does the business will start to make profit. When you start to make projections for a business, you will try to understand at what point your fixed costs and variable costs are met. What happens if the cost changes? Suppose your variable cost changes. Suppose your fixed cost changes. What happens to the profit? Right? What happens if you are selling more than one product? How do you compute the profit when you're selling more than one product? How do you compute the break-even point? What is a break-even point? Break-even point is a point at which there is no profit, no loss. That is, your costs are met. But businesses are in business to make profit and not just break even. Correct? So if businesses are in the business to make profit, they have to make something over their cost, which is their margin of safety. Since the total costs are between fixed cost and the variable cost, the proportion in which businesses use the fixed cost and variable cost is called their operating leverage. So all the terms that I used just now, we will just see it in action in next 1.5 hours. And if I'm not able to, the syllabus is a tentative guideline. If I need 15 minutes more for a chapter, I'll spend 15 minutes more for a chapter. I'm of the opinion that I will do one chapter less, but whatever I do, I'll do it well. I have no hesitation about that part. Means I need to make sure that whatever we are doing it well. Okay. Half a chapter less it's not going to bother me at all. So I will try to finish everything, but if need be, please understand that whatever we do, we'll do it well. So I'm going to get started now, and I gave you the introduction for the chapter. I'm going to start with an example and then share my screen with you. Okay. So what I need you to do is I need you to make sure that you have this handout with you. And make sure you've got a paper, pencil, calculator, rough scratch paper with you so that you don't fumble around for those. And I have opened my chat box as well. So if you need to type anything, feel free to type in. Feel free to raise your hand and ask questions. Now, can everyone see my screen? I have got cost volume profit analysis handout on top of my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And at any point of time, there is an issue, please do let me know. Divya, please let me know if there is any issues. Okay, so cost volume profit analysis. Now I've got an Excel spreadsheet on top of it. So your total cost, as I said, is equal to your fixed cost plus variable cost. And And each of these costs could be manufacturing, selling, or administrative. Okay. Now, whenever your total costs are met, that is the point of break even. So your break even point is when there is a zero profit. Okay. Any questions until now, please? Okay. So break even point is when there is no profit. So if you think about the sales, for example, or sales revenue, for example, suppose we take it per unit and you've got the total. Suppose your sales revenue per unit is $100, just for the simplicity purposes. And you've got, say, total number of units is, say, 500. So number of units is 500. So your total is obviously sales revenue of $100 times 500, $50,000. Suppose your variable cost per unit is $55. Take a number, I'm just making it up at this time. So that means your variable cost, total variable cost will be 55 times 500, right? Sales revenue minus your variable cost. Sales revenue minus your variable cost is what we call as the contribution margin. So my total contribution margin obviously is 45 times 500. Any questions until now, please? Now, at this time, we have got the variable cost, we have got the contribution margin. Now, let's say we have got some fixed costs. Say we have got fixed cost of $75,000. Now, question for everyone, how many units do you need to sell to meet the fixed cost? To cover your fixed cost, how many units do you need to sell?
150 units.
150 units? So
just to cover the fixed cost.
So how do you get that?
I just divide 75,000 by by 500.
By 500?
So no. I just forgot the process, but it's 150.
Okay. Anyone else? How many units do you need to sell to cover your fixed costs? I need to cover 75,000 in fixed costs. How can I cover it?
Divide by 500 units.
By 500.
75,000 by 100.
By 500?
100.
No, do you want me to divide by 100 or by...
By 500, so.
500, sir.
Okay, start typing in your answers in the chat box, please. The question is, how many units do you need to sell to cover your fixed cost? Type in your answer in the chat box, please, everyone. Okay, so somewhere, so some of the answers 150, some are 750, and so on. Now, when you make the contribution margin, your variable costs have been covered, right? So how many units do you need to sell to cover $75,000 would be about 1667. What does contribution margin gives you? Your contribution margin, you have covered your variable cost, right? So I just need to cover this fixed cost based upon this contribution margin. You can type in any of the other answers. You will probably not be able to cover your fixed cost. So at 1667, more or less, you will be able to cover your fixed cost. So for example, if your contribution margin is 22,500, you have got your fixed cost is 75,000. You are currently at a loss of about 52,500 at 500 units. So 500 cannot be the answer. 525 cannot be the answer. If you change it to 525, that's not going to work, right? If you put 150, obviously it's not going to work. If you put 1667, more or less covered. So if you take any number less than 1667, you have a loss. Does everyone understand me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So only number where you'll reach exactly your break-even point at a 1666 point something, 66.667, something like that, to be precise, but you cannot produce that unit, so you basically use the next number. So what did we do? We took the fixed cost, right, and divided by the contribution margin per unit. Okay. You have to understand it conceptually. So anything, if you sell any additional unit, so if you sell say 1668 units, your operating income will increase by how much? If you sell 1 unit more than the break-even point, assume the break-even point is 1667, your profit should go up by how much?
15 rupees.
Pardon me?
15. 15.
Why 15?
Because that is the operating income that we're getting per unit.
No, per unit, we are getting a contribution margin of $45.
It's 45, sir.
So if I sell 1 more unit, entire contribution margin will increase by $45 because all this contribution margin adds to your net income. Because your variable costs are met, your fixed costs are met. So anything over your break-even point, the entire contribution margin adds to your operating income. So basically we know that if you sell 100 units over the break-even, you will be making $4,500. Right? So at the break-even point, what is your profit?
Zero,
What's your
sir.
profit at the break-even point?
Zero.
Zero.
Zero, right? Your profit is zero at the break-even point. But we are not here to make zero profit, right? We are here to make some profit. Suppose we want to make $10,000. So how does this formula change? Basically, instead of zero, you got $10,000, right? The formula will change slightly, that's all. But if you understand it conceptually that you're making a zero profit, to make $10,000, you'll have to add that to the fixed cost and divide by contribution margin per unit, right? Anything after covering the variable cost, the entire contribution margin increases your operating income. So to achieve a certain profit, that's what we do. At this point, any questions, please? Are we good? Okay. I don't see any questions anywhere, so I'm going to proceed. Now, suppose in this case, we have got the break-even point in units. Suppose we want the break-even point in suppose we want the break-even point in dollar sales. Now, please note, instead of the units, we want it in dollar sales. So very simple, because this is just a ratio. The relationship between sales revenue, variable cost, contribution margin is very simple. Suppose this is $100. That means your variable cost is 55% of the sales revenue. That means contribution margin is obviously 45% of your sales revenue. Now, over here, your mathematics comes into picture. If your 45% is basically that portion which we call as the contribution margin ratio. And this is called your variable cost ratio. VC is variable cost. That's your variable cost ratio. So you take the fixed cost, of 75,000 and divide by your contribution margin ratio of 45%. That will give you the break-even point in sales dollar, in dollar sales. Which is basically the same number here. So any question on break-even point in dollar sales, please? And please note that the ratio, contribution margin ratio of 1 unit or the total will remain same. You can try it out. You can take it by total and divide by the total sales. Same thing, you can take the total, divide by the total sales. It remains same. Now, at the break-even point, what's the profit that you're making? You're making zero profit, right? You're making zero profit. So fixed cost plus zero divided by the contribution margin ratio, zero profit. Same thing, to achieve a certain profit, that's it. You change the formula slightly and you get it in. Is everyone clear until now, please?
Yes, sir.
Any questions, clarifications, please do ask. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is on the handout, please do problem number 1 and type in your answers. Is everyone clear, please? And if you notice on the top, this is the same formula that I wrote down on my notes. I'm getting 2 answers. I've got 2 answers. I need more, please, so that type in quickly. Okay. I'm starting to get answer as 45 consistently. So I'll show you how you got that. So I've given you the explanation. See, ask me any questions you have got on the explanation, please. Okay, so are we done with number 1, please? Any questions on number 1? So this is just a unit contribution margin. So you found the contribution margin, sales minus variable costs, and divide by the number of units, 700, that's it. Or you can just take this 31,500 divided by 700, that's about it you need to do. Means if you look at the answers, to compute the answers, you really don't need anything. You got 31,500. That's all you need to do. So when it's a multiple choice, if you know what you're doing, you really don't need much work. But if you don't know what you're doing, then you can struggle with for hours, nothing is going to happen. That's why I emphasize on the concept part. So you don't have to do, for a multiple choice, you don't have to do everything which I have shown you. You just need to do this. You just need to okay. So you could have done the problem in about 5 seconds or so. Everyone understands that? 31,500 by 700. That's it. That's all that was needed. Now I'm showing you this format just to make sure that you understand the format. So it is very important that you understand this format. Sales minus variable cost gives you contribution margin, less fixed cost gives you operating income. Okay, I'm assuming everyone got that. Moving on to number 2, please. Please type in the answers for number 2. So number of heater to sold break-even point. And again, if someone doesn't understand it, please feel free to ask questions. Don't hesitate. So I'm starting to get a consistent answer, 100,000. So which is 400,000 divided by 4. Okay. Number 3, please. Skyview Corporation. Basically, in this chapter, you need to understand a little bit of algebra, which you have done in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. Just a simple equation solving. You'll need that in variance analysis also. If you have forgotten how to solve for a missing variable in an equation, you please go back and refer to it again and make sure you understand it. I'm not going to teach you that part. You have done it a lot of times.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, since the third question is not clear, should we assume that 4,000 units are break-even point?
Yeah, at 50, it will make 50,000 if it sells 4,000 units, yes. It is not necessarily a break-even point. It's making money. Did that answer your question?
Like, so then how can we find out fixed cost if we don't know the profit
Mathematics.
in case if it is not break-even?
I'll show you. I'll show you in a minute.
Okay, okay.
You've got the ratios. You've got your 30% contribution margin. You know your variable cost. Once you know your variable cost, you can find your Fixed cost.
Yeah, I did that, sir.
Okay.
I,
I will answer your questions if it is still remaining after I'm done with it. Please don't let me run you over. Make sure to ask questions. Okay, so in this case, you have got a so you've got 4,000 bathtubs, 200 is the selling price, so your total is 800,000. Variable cost is 70% because your contribution margin is 30%. So your contribution margin is total of 240,000. It tells you that your given income is $50,000. So if you put an X over here, so 240,000 minus X is equal to 50,000. What is X equal to? That's what I'm saying. It's an algebra equation, 240,000. Can you solve this? Minus X is equal to 50,000. Can you not solve this equation? It's a simple linear equation, right? So basically, X will be equal to 240 minus 50,000 at 190,000, right?
Yes, sir.
Did I answer your question?
yes, sir. Actually, I didn't read the question properly in my hand.
No problems. That's what I'm here for. So 240,000 is not the right answer. That's a contribution margin. It is not the fixed cost. Prateek, Tarun, Kaushik, do you understand it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So in this case, like you just need, again, most of your questions in this case will be answered by a simple statement, which is this: sales revenue minus variable cost gives you the contribution margin, less fixed cost gives you the operating income. Just start to put in the numbers and you'll get your answer. This is what we call as the variable costing income statement. Anyone has a question on number 3, please? Okay, please type in yes or no so that I know whether you have a question or not. When I'm asking you, please do something so that I know that I can move forward or not. Okay, so I'm assuming there are no questions then. Okay. Okay, I'll move forward. So now this was the second part which I told you to achieve a certain targeted income. Instead of profit of 0, you got the targeted profit. So please do number 4 now. Type in your answer. I hope everyone is doing it. I need more people to type the answer so I know where you're going with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an experiment right now with breakout rooms. That basically means I'll put you together with a couple of other people. So if you want to exchange notes with each other, hopefully that will work. If not, I will just bring you back into one room. Did you get any message? So you should be 2 to 3 people in a room probably now. Yashwini, you have not joined the room. If you don't want to, I'm assuming. Those who have not joined, I'm assuming you don't want to. Shashi Kumar, Yashwini, Mohammad Shoaib, Ravi Chandra Naidu. So I'm assuming you don't want to join the room. Divya, can you give me a feedback as to how that group is working? You just got out of the room. Divya, can you please join the room and see how that is working? Okay, so on number 4, Shoaib is not able to join. Let me see if I can do anything from here. Try now, Shoaib. Okay, on number 4, your answer is 170,000. Most of you gave the right answer. How much income will be needed to generate units to be sold to generate 60,000? So again, you can do the same contribution margin format. You can just do it 96 minus 3. 9 minus 6 gives you 3. 450,000 plus 60,000 divided by 3 will give you 170,000. Shoaib, I don't know what else to do if you're not getting the notification. Divya can try to do it, but I don't know what else to do. I will try to figure that out for the next time. Okay, number 4, is everyone good? Okay, is this group thing, is this rooms thing working any better or not, or should I just close all the rooms?
Yes, sir, it is working.
It is working. But do you like it better with the rooms or without it?
I mean, it depends on person to person. If anyone can explain the whole problem, then it is fine all right.
Okay, I'll leave it on for about another 15 minutes and I'll see if it works fine for you. Otherwise, I'll close all the rooms.
Hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on number 4, please?
No, sir.
No. Arvind, any question on number 4? Arvind Sankar,
No, sir.
any questions?
No, sir.
Yes, no? No. Okay, Harshita Swami, any questions, please?
No, sir. Got it.
Okay, so we are good on this one then. I'm moving forward. Okay, we move on to next one. As I said, this is the contribution margin income statement or the variable costing income statement. We move to the sensitivity analysis as to if something changes, then what happens. Number 5, please type the answer.
Based on margins of the company estimate of the increase.
So you can automatically get out of the group also. Now it seems most of the people have got out of the group. So I guess it was working better individually. Okay, it says that the selling price is $10 per unit. Your unit sales is given, variable expenses are given. The question is, it could increase the unit selling price by 15%. So you can increase the 10 to 10 multiplied by 1.15 and increase the unit volume sales by 10% if $100,000 were spent. So you can increase this sales volume as well as the price. What would be the budgeted net operating income? So if you increase your selling price by 15%, your new selling price will be $11.50. Any questions on that, please? Your variable expense still is at $6, which is given to you. Your number of units have increased by 10%, so 110,000 is the new units. And your expenses have gone up by 100,000. Can you all see my screen at this time, please, with the solution?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions, clarifications on this? So you increase your selling price by 15%, you got 1150. you increase your fixed cost by 100,000. Never forget to increase the variable cost for all the units that are being sold. That's the most common error that will take place, that you have taken the same variable cost. No, it will change. It is $6 per unit. By definition, it is per unit. Kaushik Chaudhary, any questions?
No, sir. I got it.
Okay, Mohan Kumar.
No, sir.
Okay, Gopika Sindhu.
No, sir.
So I'm assuming everyone got it. Can I move forward, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next is a concept called margin of safety. That is very simple. Anything you sell over the break-even point is your margin of safety. That is basically how much the sales can fall before you get into the loss area. Okay. How much can the sales fall before you get into the area of loss? So anything over your break-even sales is your margin of safety. So for example, during this COVID time, people lost their sales. At some point of time, basically they will start to get into losses. Means the businesses were nearly shut down, so that was a different thing. But if there is an economic downturn, you might have a loss of sale and you may not be able to, and you will get into losses. So next is a concept of what we call as an operating leverage. Now, when we talk about operating leverage, we talk about the relative proportion of fixed cost and variable cost we talk about the relative proportion of the fixed cost and the variable cost in the cost structure. If a company has a higher proportion of fixed cost, it is at a higher risk when the downturn comes. And that is why we call it highly leveraged company. It has a higher amount of debt and it has to service the debt. It is obligated to serve the debt first. So operating leverage is the extent to which an organization uses fixed cost in its cost structure. So your operating leverage is computed as contribution margin over net income. So that will give you a number. For example, in this particular example, it has an operating leverage factor of 5. So what does it mean? It basically means if your sales increase by 1%, your income will increase by 5%. So suppose the sales increase by 10%, like in our last example. If your operating leverage factor is 5, you will increase the profit by 50%. So once again, your operating leverage is computed as contribution margin by net income. It will give you a factor. if depending upon your industry, some number might be considered very high, some might be considered low. It depends upon the industry to industry. So if your operating leverage relative to the industry is high, that basically means you are at a higher risk. But at the same time, when it is good times, you will make much more profit. Why? Because you have already met your fixed cost. And everything in the contribution margin adds to the net income. So a 10% increase in the sales will lead to a 50% increase in the profit if you are leveraged by 5. Same way, if you are leveraged by 6, it will be a 60% increase. Okay. So let's do the next question, number 6. So Hopi has the following data. Margin of safety is 100,000. That means you've got 100,000 over the break-even point. Your contribution margin is 75%, so your variable cost ratio is 25%, and degree of operating leverage is 4. You are expected to find out the fixed expenses. Again, algebra will come in handy at this time. So your current sales minus the break-even sales. So we don't know what are the break-even sales. We put X equal to 100,000. So your break-even sales is 300,000. Any questions on 300,000, please, as the break-even level of sales? So your contribution margin is 75%. So your contribution margin ratio is 75%. So your contribution margin will be 225,000 at the break-even point, right? And at the break-even point, what happens? At the break-even point, you cover your fixed cost. That means at the break-even point, your fixed cost and contribution margin will be same. That gives you your break-even point and the fixed cost. Okay, think about it for a minute and let me know if you've got a question. Make sure you're able to do this.
Dr. Maheshwar, if I may interrupt, there are many in the breakout rooms. So is that how it's supposed to be?
Yeah, right now it is supposed to be that way. I'm going to close everything now. See what happens.
Sure, because students are messaging, they just wanted to check. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just close it so that there's no confusion.
Yeah, because there are only 30 students here in the main screen. The main session, there are
Sir.
only 30 of them.
It will close in about 50 seconds.
Sure.
Everyone will be together.
Yeah, thanks.
So we won't be able to see your screen while we are in breakout room.
Then you should have told me earlier.
Like we got out, we didn't know. Actually.
Okay, so which part did you miss now? Then I have to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the operating leverage again. That's what I covered. Okay. And I will cover this problem again. So I'm not going to use breakout rooms anymore. Is everyone can see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
what
sir.
I'm going to do is, I'm sorry, I didn't know that in the breakout room you cannot see my screen. Okay, what I'm going to do is, for what I did was I did problem number 6. I will redo the problem and I will redo the operating leverage again. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, can everyone see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, at any point of time, if any problem like this happens and I'm talking and you cannot see it, please let me know so that I can fix it early. But I'm not going to use any breakout room anymore. Someone again entered the waiting room. I don't want, I've closed all the rooms. Is there anyone who is not able to see the screen, please? Is there anyone who cannot see the screen? Were you able to hear me in the breakout room or not?
No, sir.
No, sir, we were not able to hear you.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No?
No.
Okay, then I have to go back and see where did I leave. At which point did you get into the breakout room?
Question
Can you
number
give
4.
the code, sir?
Question number 4 or 5?
4,
4,
sir.
sir.
Okay, let me go back then. Okay, I'll go to number 5 again and I'll explain it. And then I'll explain the operating leverage, and so no one is in the breakout room anymore. Are there supposed to be 50 participants or more? Divya? Divya? Are there supposed to be more than 50 participants? I don't see anyone in the breakout rooms anymore. I've closed all of them. So I'm assuming they're 50 only. I thought there were 51. Divya, is anyone absent today? Is she not listening, I guess? Okay, I was on number 5, so I'll have to go back a little bit so for everyone can see it. Divya, there should be 50 participants or more than 50 participants? It is 50. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I just want to make sure that I've left no one. Thanks. So in this case, what we are doing is what we call as a sensitivity analysis, and it refers to some change that has been made and what impact does that change has on the income. So in this case, we are saying, okay, this is our basic data. Selling price is $10. So it says what happens if the selling price increases by 15%. That means the new selling price is at $11.50. And the sales volume increases by 10%. So 100,000 was the original sales volume value. Now it is 110,000 units. Your variable cost is remaining same. 600 by 100 gives you $6. So you get the same, so you get the new contribution margin. And if $100,000 were spent on advertising, so you spent an additional $100,000. So we are using the same thing, but making a change. And this is called the sensitivity analysis. As I said, we are just putting a new label to it. There's nothing new over here. It is just if you know how to do math and you know how to do English, read English, you should be fine. Questions on number 5, please. Any questions on number 5, please? Type in no or yes or something. Good. Now, next is the concept of margin of safety. Margin of safety is anything over your break-even point. So any sales that you make over your break-even point is your margin of safety. And related to that is what we call as the operating leverage. So operating leverage refers to a relative proportion of fixed and variable cost in the cost structure. Higher your fixed costs are, more leveraged the company is. That is, it has a more risk of getting into losses when the downturn occurs. It is computed as contribution margin divided by the net income. So in this case, contribution margin by net income is 5. Now, what does this mean? What does this 5 mean? That basically means if your sales increase by 1%, your profit will increase by 5%. So if your sales in this last example increase by 10% and your operating leverage factor is 5, it will give an increase of 50% in your profit. Questions on operating leverage, please.
Sir, is it just that it gives the profit increase in the, by how much percentage the profits that we are going to get?
It does show you the impact on the, it does tell you whether the company is highly leveraged or not. It is more associated with the risk, because if suppose the sales fall by 10%, your profit will fall by 50%. Okay. It's not only increased, but it is decreased. It is a risk assessment kind of thing.
Okay, sir. It is not with respect to only profit, but it can determine losses also.
Yeah, because you have got a higher proportion of fixed cost. If you have got a higher proportion of fixed cost, that will give you, it will be difficult to meet your fixed cost before you, and you'll be in the loss area.
Okay, sir.
Any other question, please? No? So the next question is, what is the total operating fixed expenses for the year? So in this case, we have got the basic data, sales, margin of safety, contribution margin ratio. And again, my suggestion is you write down that basic formula of contribution margin income statement, and you should be able to get most of the answers from there. So we know that the margin of safety is 100,000. That means your break-even point is 300,000. 400,000 minus X, which is the break-even point, gives you the margin of safety of 300,000. Since the contribution margin ratio is 75%, your contribution margin is 225. And since the contribution margin is 225, your contribution minus fixed expenses is 0. So you can just write it down, another equation where you will find that contribution margin minus fixed cost is 0 at 225. So again, you can say contribution margin minus X, which is the fixed cost, is equal to 0 at the break-even point. That means contribution margin is 225,000 minus X is equal to break-even point, which is 0. So that basically gives you X, which is a fixed cost, equal to 225,000. Is everyone with me, please? I'll give you a minute to think about it, and I'll join you in about two or 3 minutes. Okay? I need to make sure that please make sure you understand number 6. Ask me any questions. Okay, any questions on this, please? Type in yes, no. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I'll move forward. I'm going to go to the McGraw-Hill Connect. Okay, I'm on question number 3 on chapter 7 homework on McGraw-Hill Connect. Next, I am assuming you have used McGraw-Hill Connect number of times, right? Now, what I'm going to move the topic to is what happens if the company sells more than one product? Because most of the companies will sell more than one product, right? So how do you compute the break-even point when you have got more than one product? Again, the concept still remains same. The concept still remains same. That is fixed cost by contribution margin, but we use the weighted contribution margin, like your GPA. When you compute your GPA, it's a weighted contribution margin. So that's what I'm going to show you now. Okay, and stop me whenever you want me to. So here is the information that you have got. Suppose it has got this two products, high quality and medium quality product. It could be any two products, really doesn't matter. Okay. Your sales price is given to you, your invoice cost is given to you, your sales commission is given to you. Your fixed expenses are given to you. So first thing is compute the unit contribution margin for each product type. So if you look at the product type, you've got the sales price, you've got the variable cost, and you've got the unit contribution margin. Any question about the unit contribution margin, please? Part number 1. So instead of one product, you've got two products. So I'm finding the contribution margin for two products. Any issues over there? No. Okay. The next thing is we look at the relative sales mix of the products. Okay. Now, what does the sales mix means? Sales mix means what is the proportion of one product in relation to the other product. What does that mean? That basically means, suppose give me the two models that you sell in Maruti over there. Give me names of two models for Maruti cars.
Swift.
Any two models in Maruti car or
Swift.
Swift and
Baleno.
Milano.
BELENO.
Baleno.
Baleno. So suppose for which one sells more, Swift or Baleno?
Baleno, sir, right now.
So suppose for every two Baleno, they sell one Swift, right? So in this case, your sales mix is 1:2. Right? In that case, your sales mix is 1:2. So that is that out of every total of 3 cars sold, 1 out of 3 is Swift. I don't know why it is doing that. 1 out of 3 is, sorry. 1 out of 3 is a Swift and 2 out of 3 is Baleno, right? So if this is the sales mix, this is the relative weight, 1/3 and 2/3, or 33.33 and 66.67% is the relative sales mix. For a given sales mix, there will be a unique break-even point. So So your sales, first of all, is there any question on the contribution margin of 560 and 260? Okay. Now, the relative sales mix in this case is once you have a relative sales mix, I'm looking for somewhere it tells you something about the sales mix. And again, we are ignoring the income taxes. Okay, it says 3/4 of the shop sales are medium quality bikes, right? So 3/4 is the medium quality bike. That basically means 75% of the sales are for the medium quality, right? And the 25% is therefore high quality. Is everyone there with me?
Yes, sir.
So, so what we do is we find a weighted contribution margin. So to find the weighted contribution margin, you take the, so first you take the, sorry, so 25% and 75%, that's the sales mix. Is everyone okay with that part?
Yes, sir.
In the third part, compute the weighted contribution margin. So once you have the weights and once you have got the contribution margin of each one, so 25% of 560, which is the high quality bike, and 75% of 260, which is the medium quality bike. In this case, your weights are the relative sales mix. Your weights are the relative sales mix. So you get the weighted contribution margin of 335. And that is the most difficult part in the whole problem. That's it. If you know how to compute the weighted contribution margin, it should not be an issue. So if your sales mix changes, suppose it becomes 20:80, 20% and 80%, obviously your weighted contribution margin will change. And also your break-even point will change. Okay, is everyone okay with 335 or whatever number you get?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so once you have that, then you can compute the break-even point by dividing the fixed cost by the weighted contribution margin. So your fixed cost was 147,400. Your weighted contribution margin is 440 bicycles. But this is an overall contribution margin, 440. Your sales mix is 25:75. So 25% of 440, which is 110, is your high quality bikes. And 75% of this is medium quality bikes at and your sales revenue will be 1400 for the 110 times 1400, giving you 54,000. And your medium quality bikes 330 times 800, giving you 264,000. So your break-even point is at $418,000. Sorry, this is the total sales, not the break-even point. Was it the break-even point? Yeah, break-even point at 440 bike. So that's the relative sales of each of the bike at the break-even point. Okay. It's the same formula except that it is divided by the weighted contribution margin, and then you split it into its 25% and 75% relative sales to get your sales revenue for each bike. Questions? Any questions, please? Okay. So now the next step still remains same. How many bicycles of each type must be sold to earn a target profit of 100,500? We already know the formula, fixed cost plus your targeted income divided by the contribution margin. Instead of the contribution margin, we have got the weighted contribution margin of 335. So the number of bikes is 740, out of which 25% will be high quality and 75% will be medium quality, which will give you 185 and 555. So what we have done here, the only thing which is different is we have done weighted average contribution margin. That's the only thing which we have done different. And your weighted average contribution margin is based upon the relative sales mix. Again, break-even point will change based upon the relative sales mix. Everything else remains same. Questions, clarifications? So this is if more than one product is being sold. Any questions, please? Do you want me to explain anything again on this problem? Okay. So with this, you should be able to do all the assigned problems on chapter 7. So when you go back home today, or you are home actually, I shouldn't be saying go back home. I'm just used to saying it. You are already home. So have your dinner if you haven't had your dinner yet, and then basically take some rest and then get back into problems. By tomorrow, make sure you're done with all the problems on this chapter, on McGraw-Hill Connect, on handout, and on the quiz. And then bring me any questions that you have not been able to do so I can explain it to you. Okay? Is everyone clear on the message, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if there are any questions, basically use algebra. Whatever is not there, put X instead of that number. You'll be using the contribution margin income statement again and again. That is sales minus variable cost gives you contribution margin, minus fixed cost gives you operating income. And most of the problems, you should be able to do it. Means if you look at these answers, they are basically same: fixed expense by contribution margin ratio, for the break-even point in dollars, then fixed expenses plus target net income divided by the unit contribution margin. So there is nothing which should be an issue. And wherever it says question like it will yield the same contribution margin, or you're indifferent between the two choices, you basically put it in an equation form and equate it, the two situations to each other, and solve for the number. Okay. You just have to equate it, like just equate it. It's the same thing which you have done earlier, but what is the new price for that? You're just equating it to price minus variable cost divided by whatever the contribution margin equal to the new price minus this. So if there is a question where there is a missing number, just put X or P or whatever it is, and you should have the answer. Does the class get over at 10 or at 11? Do I have one more hour or?
No, sir. Only 2
Did
hours
you ask the
class.
regular classes?
Pardon me?
The regular classes when
Yeah.
we used to have in the morning?
Yeah.
11.
No. Divya, now over 3
Now,
weeks.
yeah. Oh, you're 10. Okay. Yeah. 10 o'clock.
Until 10 o'clock, right?
Yeah, that's right. 2 hours. Yeah.
2 hours, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have more or less completed the chapter, the concepts in the chapter. Please do the problems. Any questions before we leave?
Sir.
Anything that
No,
is
sir.
not clear in terms of what you're expected to do? Okay. Then if no, I don't see any questions coming up. I'm waiting. I'll wait for 1 more minute. If there are no questions, just type in something. Okay. So from tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Keep safe and do the problems. Okay. Thank you. And Dr. Deepak should also be helping you out if you need any help. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you,
nice
sir.
day.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Devya, do you want me to stay behind or any question?
No, I think you can end the meeting. So I'm very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the students left. We can talk on WhatsApp. So if there's anything.
Okay. But everything else is okay?
Yes, everything else is fine.
Okay. Take
You
care.
will be sharing the recording, right? Once you receive it.
Yeah, I'll put it on D2L if you want.
Yeah, I think that would be better for the student. No, even I will need it because I need to share the same with Dr. Deepak. So he actually sees the first 3 days and then help them with the problems and everything on Fridays. So if you can share it when they come in, I will share it with the class as well as with Dr. Deepak.
Sure. I think it will be there in about half an hour or 45 minutes.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Take care, Divya. Anything else?
That's it. That's tomorrow. I will just log in for a few minutes, and Nandini will take over. So either it will be me, Nandini, or Revati. So one of us every day. So we're gonna monitor the class throughout.
Yeah, because today I just assumed that you have opened it. I was
Yeah, I think the waiting room for co-host was also applicable. So I was also not sure on that.
okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, sure. Bye. Thank you.